Can you ignore phone calls? What happens if you ignore letters? And what to say when you speak to debt collectors? As a bonus, at the end, I'm going to show you some magic words that you can say to stop debt collectors in their tracks. Now let's get into it. So phone calls. Can you ignore phone calls? Phone calls from debt collectors are super stressful. I know when I was in debt, I had anxiety over answering the phone. At the time, debt collectors were phoning me almost 10 times a day. Now I know with recent regulations and recent crackdowns on debt collectors that they're now limited on how many times they can contact you. But still, I know from speaking recently to my readers at Money Nerd that people are still being harassed on the phone. If you've had similar experiences and you want to name and shame your debt collector, leave a comment below. I'll be super interested to read it, and I know that my viewers and readers will also be interested to hear about your experiences. Now, you're under absolutely no obligation to answer the phone, so you can ignore any phone calls. But still, I don't know about you, but having your phone constantly vibrating or ringing off the hook, that's just as stressful than actually answering the phone sometimes. So how do you get them to stop calling? So under the FCA regulation, FCA is the Financial Conduct Authority. It's the regulatory body for debt collectors. And they've got a big handbook, we call it CONC, but it's the Consumer Handbook. And in that, there's a section that's 7.9.4, which basically says that if you ask them to stop phoning you, they must adhere to that. Let me show you actually. Right, so this is the FCA handbook, and if we go to section 7.9.3, 7.9.4, a firm must not contact customers at unreasonable times and must pay due regard to the reasonable requests of the customers in respect of when and where and how they may be contacted. So as I said, that basically means if you contact them and ask them not to contact you via phone, then they must stop. Letters. So this is super important. You must not ignore letters. So letters are the legal way that debt collectors and creditors correspond with you. And again, thinking back to when I was in debt, I had a pile of letters on my kitchen counter, some tucked in the drawer, and I just ignored that. And that's a really bad thing to do, because some of those letters might be legal correspondence. There's certain legal correspondence that debt collectors and creditors are legally obligated to send to you. Things like notice of default, things like CCJ, county court judgment, and things like that, that if you ignore, there's some serious consequences. And those consequences might be an impact to your credit score, or being taken to court. And ultimately, if you have a county court judgment against you and it's found against you, then you can get bailiffs coming to knock on your door and taking your car, taking your stuff. So I implore you, do not ignore letters, open them and deal with them. So let's get on to number 3 before we get to that bonus there at the bottom. So number 3 is to take action. Now, studies found that over 50% of people in debt take over a year to deal with that debt. Don't be Mr. Sad Face here, be Mr. or Mrs. Happy Face, and deal with your debt now, not in a year's time. Because if you wait a year, bad things will happen. You'll be taken to court, you'll have fees and extra charges added onto your debt amount, and it will just pile up. So how do you take action? Well, first off, you have to speak to the debt collectors. So you can do this either by phone, which is quickest and easiest, give them a call, or you can send a letter. But regardless of how you contact them, you need to find out how much do you owe? Are the debt collectors actually legitimate? So are they FCA regulated? Is the debt legitimate? Do they have legal grounds to be collecting this debt? And who are they collecting the debt for? Did they buy that debt off a creditor? Perhaps if you had a loan or a credit card that went bad, they might have bought that debt. Or are they collecting a parking ticket or or something like that. Once you've got all of that information, then you can start building your strategy. Now, I've written about this in more depth on my website Money Nerd, but just to give you a high level, the type of things that you can do is, for example, suggest repayments of an amount that you can afford. So they might be asking £100 a month or £200 a month or £300 a month. And if you can't afford that, if that's not within your disposable income, which is your income minus your expenses, you're not obligated to pay that. So what I suggest people do is try your luck there. They might ask for £200. Why not just say, I can only afford £20 or £50? And again, under an FCA regulation, a clause there says that the creditor or the debt collector must consider that offer or that request. So if you request £50 a month, they have to consider that, and very often they'll accept that. And I've seen so many success stories through my readers through taking this method. So we won't go too much into detail in this particular video. If you want more details, check out my website. But let's get on to the bonus. As promised, the bonus is some magic words. So these magic words I've put into a script format. So we've got emails that you can send, letters that you can send, exactly what to say if you do want to pick up the phone and speak to the debt collectors. Now, this is really important because if you say the wrong thing, or like very often debt collectors will try and trip you up with your words or try and get you to agree to certain things. They're very practiced in getting what they want from you, and it's important to follow the scripts so you don't fall into their traps. Now, before you leave, if you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you just want to say thank you for the information, like, and if you've got any questions or you want to tell your story, or if you want to name and shame your debt collector, leave a comment below. Thank you guys. Bye.